There is a kind of silence that doesn't scream for attention, yet it holds the entire room hostage. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. And yet, he can't stop thinking about you. Not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't say. Because when you chose stillness over reaction, presence over performance, you became something he couldn't define, but couldn't forget. Until the end, not just to understand why this silence drives him to obsession, but to uncover why this stillness, when truly understood, becomes the greatest strength you'll ever possess. And ask yourself, when the world spins faster, are you moving with it? Or are you the mountain that watches the clouds drift by? There is a silence that doesn't come from the absence of words, but from the fullness of presence. It is not the quiet of hiding, nor the stillness of fear. It is the silence of alignment, when the mind no longer needs to shout, because the heart already understands. This kind of silence is rare, and when it is found in someone, it echoes louder than speech, pulling attention like a moon that moves the tides without making a sound. A man may find himself inexplicably drawn to this presence. He cannot name what he feels, for it is not loud. It does not announce itself, but something deep within him stirs. He feels the contrast between your calm and the inner restlessness he has not yet faced within himself. He is used to chasing movement. He is conditioned to respond to noise, but you offer neither. And yet, you are unforgettable. There was once a young monk who asked his master, "Why do people notice me only when I speak? Why do they not feel me when I am silent?" The master pointed to a mountain in the distance. "You see that peak?" he said. "It hasn't moved in 1,000 years, yet every cloud, every bird, every traveler is drawn to it. Not because it shouts, but because it stands." The monk nodded slowly. "So I must become like the mountain." The master smiled. "No, you already are. You must only remember, stillness is a forgotten language in a world that speaks in urgency. But within you, it remains native. The stillness that arises from inner calm becomes a mirror. It doesn't force reflection. It is simply is, and others cannot help but see themselves within it. A man, upon encountering this depth, may be disarmed. Running through the park, he doesn't understand why he feels off balance in your presence. He cannot name what it is that keeps pulling his thoughts back to you. But it is your silence, full, not empty. It is the way you do not fill the air with attempts to be understood, approved, or desired. And that silence unsettles everything within him that still craves noise. In daily life, this kind of stillness often shows itself in the way you listen. When someone speaks and you do not interrupt, do not shift to match their emotion, but simply receive, they feel it. At first, they may try to break that stillness to provoke a reaction. But your grounded presence acts as a weight, and without trying to control anything, you anchor the moment. This is not submission. It is mastery. Imagine a candle flame. In a room with no wind, the flame stands upright. It dances gently, but it does not waver. Now, enter a room where people are rushing, arguing, chasing answers, and the flame flickers wildly. Most people try to be the wind, to influence, to persuade, to move others. But if you can become the still air, the flame aligns naturally. There is a Chinese saying, "When the mind is still, the universe surrenders." Gef, this surrender is not to you, but to the energy you embody. You become the space that others unknowingly long for, and that space in its purity attracts. One might say, but won't silence push him away? Won't he think I don't care? And the answer lies in its intent. If your silence is used to manipulate, it is not silence, it is noise in disguise. But if your silence is born of knowing, it becomes magnetic. You do not withdraw to punish. You do not stay quiet to control. You simply remain in the center of your own being, and from there you emanate. Stillness does not chase. It invites, and in that invitation there is both mystery and peace. In the quiet presence of someone who no longer needs to impress, a man may find himself wanting to return again and again, not because she says what he wants to hear, but because around her he feels what he didn't know he was missing. Not passion, peace, peace. Not excitement, see equilibrium. And that, in a world of constant motion, becomes sacred. The journey into silence is not a withdrawal from life, but a return to its essence. And once you've touched it, you'll see it. The world does not need more noise. It needs more people who are willing to hold space in the silence. The kind that speaks to the soul and lingers long after the moment has passed. Where silence is the presence of peace, non-reaction is the expression of strength. It is not the suppression of feeling, nor the avoidance of truth. It is the sacred pause, the breath between the spark and the flame. To not react is to reclaim your power. It is to understand that not every provocation deserves a performance, and not every storm requires your sail to be shaken. When you do not react, you create a space so rare, so quiet. Those who live in emotional reactivity do not know how to stand within it. Imagine a calm lake on a windless morning. A stone is thrown into its center. The ripples move outward, but the lake does not resist. It does not cling to the disturbance. It allows the movement, but returns to stillness. So too must we learn to allow life stones without becoming defined by them. There is a parable told in the Shaolin tradition. A master and his disciple were walking along a river. Suddenly, a man on the other side began shouting insults, cursing them, mocking their robes. The disciple clenched his fists, turned red with anger. "Master, let me respond!" The master kept walking. Later, the disciple asked, "Why did you let him speak that way? Why didn't you respond?" The master said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" In that moment, the disciple understood. Reaction is often an acceptance of an invitation to suffering. When you do not accept it, the energy returns to its source and your peace remains intact. In life, many misunderstand non-reaction as weakness. They believe that to stay silent, to not defend, to walk away, is to lose. But in truth, it is the greatest form of self-possession. To react is to allow another to dictate your inner state. To respond is to choose alignment over agitation. Let us take an example from nature. The bamboo bends in the wind, but it does not break. It is both soft and strong. When heavy rains come, it sways. When the sun returns, it straightens. The bamboo teaches us that flexibility, grounded in inner strength, is the key to endurance. So too in human interaction, when a man tries to provoke you, to test your emotion, to pull you into drama, and you remain calm, not because you're numb, but because you are sovereign. You awaken something in him. He may not know why, but your non-reaction creates a space where his usual games fall flat. In that void, he is confronted with himself, and in that mirror, he is either humbled or confused. This is why your calm can become an unspoken force. It is not cold. It is clear. It is not passive. It is present. The woman who knows herself does not jump at shadows. She does not fight every battle. She does not need to prove where her heart stands, because her silence already tells the story of someone who has fought within and won. There is an ancient Sanskrit versif: "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." And the greatest battlefield is often not in the world, but within the breath, between the moment you are triggered and the moment you choose to not respond. This does not mean we become disconnected, emotionless, or indifferent. It means we become conscious, awake, choosing our words with care, choosing our presence with awareness. Because a reactive heart is a heart still seeking something outside itself. But a heart that can witness without grasping, that heart becomes a sanctuary, a man may test you. He may withdraw. He may accuse. He may confuse. But if in those moments you simply return to yourself, breathing steady inward, you become untouchable. Not because you've shut down, but because you've risen above. Let this be your compass. Do not react from fear. Do not speak from ego. Do not move from desperation. Instead, wait, let the emotion pass like a cloud. Let the mind settle like dusk over a quiet lake. From that stillness, decide. In a world that races to respond, those who wait before they speak carry a different power. Not the power of dominance, but the power of clarity. And clarity, once felt, becomes the rarest energy of all. A man may not understand this power when he meets it, but he will feel it. And long after others have screamed and faded, the one who chose non-reaction, she remains in his mind. A mystery, a magnet, a mirror, and in that mirror he may finally meet himself, or lose himself in the memory of the peace he couldn't hold. Either way, your work is done. Because your strength was never about changing him. It was always about mastering you. There are moments when a single gaze speaks more than 1,000 words, and a silent presence carries more depth than any carefully crafted sentence. In a world obsessed with performing, displaying, reacting, validating, true presence becomes rare and powerful. When you no longer strive to be seen, your energy begins to shine from a place far deeper than appearance. This is the essence of authentic presence. It is not about what you do, but who you are when you are not trying. A person grounded in presence draws attention without effort. This magnetism is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not demand applause. It is the natural byproduct of a soul that has returned to itself. When you become this kind of presence, one that is quiet, sure, and deeply rooted, you no longer chase connection. You embody it. A Zen story tells of a student who asked his master, "How can I gain the respect of others?" The master walked silently to the edge of the garden, stood still beneath a pine tree, simply breathed. After a while, he turned and said, "Do you hear the wind in the needles?" "Yes," the student replied. "That is respect. It comes when you stop asking for it." We are not here to impress. We are here to remember. To remember that before we learned how to please others, we simply were. That as children, our presence was not calculated, and yet it radiated. This purity, untouched by expectation, is still within us. But it is often buried beneath performance, comparison, and fear. In daily life, the difference between presence and performance is felt more than seen. Imagine a conversation where someone is fully with you, not distracted, not formulating their next sentence, not trying to be liked. They are simply as with you. Their eyes do not scan. Their posture is open. Their energy is still. In such a moment, you feel seen, not judged, not evaluated, just seen. This is presence. It heals without trying. In contrast, performance is heavy. It carries the weight of outcome. It says, "Am I good enough now?" even when no words are spoken. And people feel that too, especially those who are sensitive or those who have grown weary of illusion. A man may not know why he feels uneasy with someone who is constantly on, always explaining or entertaining. But when he meets someone rooted in quiet confidence, someone who is simply there, a different kind of attraction awakens, one born not of desire, but of reverency. This is why stillness is not emptiness. It is the fullness of being that no longer needs to grasp. And in such fullness, others find rest. When you enter a room and carry this kind of energy, soft, aware, unattached, you change the rhythm of that space. People slow down around you, even if they don't understand why. You have become, as the Tao Te Ching says, the valley spirit that never dies. In nature, this principle is beautifully expressed by the sun. The sun does not beg to be noticed. It does not shout nor chase. It rises each day in silence, offering light to all things. The flowers turn toward it naturally. The birds wake in its presence. Even the coldest frost yields to its warmth. It is there, whether seen or hidden by clouds, and in its constancy, it is worshipped not by force but by being. So too must we learn to rise in our presence, not with the intention to gain attention, to be so connected to our center that others cannot help but feel it. This kind of presence requires no performance, simply arises from deep alignment with truth, and truth, once embodied, no longer needs to explain itself. A woman who lives in this space will confuse the man who is used to noise. He is drawn, but he does not know why. Because with her, he feels something he forgot he was seeking. Not validation, but peace. And peace cannot be performed. It can only be lived. As we walk the path inward, let us remember the trees do not perform to be loved. The moon does not compete to be seen. And you are enough. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are when you are simply present. Let us carry this remembrance into our silence, our stillness, our very breath, for in that space we do not lose ourselves. We find the self that was never lost. When that self becomes our home, we will discover the truth. We were never meant to be admired. We were meant to be. There is a strange power in letting go. Not the kind of letting go that comes from giving up, but the kind that comes from no longer holding on. When you no longer grasp for approval, affection, or control, something unexpected happens. You become a lighter. And in that lightness, you become magnetic. This is the paradox of emotional detachment. It does not mean you are cold or indifferent. It means you are whole enough within yourself that you no longer need to tether your worth to someone else's response. You care, but you do not cling. You feel, but you are not ruled by feeling. This subtle distinction transforms the way people experience you, especially those who are used to emotional entanglement. There is a tale from the Shaolin temples of a young disciple who fell in love with a village girl. He was tormented by her indifference. He begged the master for advice. The master took him to the edge of the river and placed a leaf on the water. "Watch," he said. The leaf floated freely, touching the surface but never sinking. "Cling to her," the master continued, "and you will sink. Let her pass like the river, and you will remain." We often confuse love with attachment. We believe that wanting someone to stay means we care deeply. But true love allows space. True love does not demand. It waits without fear, walks away without bitterness when it must. In everyday life, we see this dynamic in relationships that shift when one person stops needing. A woman who once texted constantly, sought reassurance, feared being abandoned. One day, she pauses. She breathes before replying. She speaks less. She listens more. Not out of strategy, but out of clarity. She realizes she does not want a connection born of fear. And suddenly, the man who took her for granted notices something he cannot name. He becomes restless. He begins to wonder what changed. What he feels is not just her silence. It is her detachment from outcome. This detachment creates space. And in that space, mystery is born. For what is mystery, if not the presence of something we cannot control? Nature reflects this in countless ways. Consider the moon's dance with the tides. The moon does not touch the ocean, yet it moves the water with silent force. It does not plead. It simply is. And in that still presence, it commands the sea. So, too does your calm detachment pull on the unseen tides within others. Lao Tzu wrote, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." This truth speaks to the transformation that happens when you stop gripping. When you release the idea that you must be pursued to feel worthy, that you must be chosen to feel whole, you begin to dwell in the one place no one can take from you. Your own soul. A woman who lives from this place confuses a man not because she plays games, but because she does not need to. She walks away when she must, not in anger, but in peace. She does not explain endlessly. She does not beg to be understood. Her detachment is not arrogance. It is rooted in the knowing that her peace is her responsibility. To become this kind of presence requires courage. It is not easy to let go of emotional patterns that once gave us a sense of control. It is not easy to stand still when the heart longs to reach out. But when you choose the higher path, when you pause, breathe, and observe without reacting, you rise above the temporary wave and you see the ocean. This elevation does not disconnect you from love, deepens it. For only when you let go of needing can you truly give. And what you give is not desperation. It is freedom. Freedom to love without fear. Freedom to care without expectation. Freedom to be with or without and remain whole. This is what draws others to you. Not the mask of strength, but the softness that no longer clings. The lightness that allows. The presence that holds space without trying to fill it. And perhaps this is the final teaching. To be loved for your silence is to be seen beyond your surface. To be remembered for your detachment is to be honored for your essence. And to live in that still clear space between holding on and letting go. That is the dance of true inner mastery. So let go. Not of love, but of fear. Not of connection, but of control. And you will find, perhaps to your own surprise, what is meant for you flows more easily when you stop reaching for it. And in that flow, there is peace. And in that peace, there is power. The kind that doesn't chase, the kind that it receives. There is something quietly powerful about a person who does not try to be understood, who does not offer explanations for their presence, and yet whose mystery lingers in the air long after they've left the room. In a world that constantly seeks to label, define, and categorize, mystery is a form of quiet rebellion. But it is not the mystery of concealment or artifice. It is the mystery that arises naturally from inner peace. When you are at peace within, you are not compelled to overshare, overexpress, or overjustify. You no longer hand people maps to understand you because you are no longer lost. And when a man meets a woman who holds herself with this kind of depth, he feels it even if he cannot name it. It touches something ancient within him, something older than words. A woman who has cultivated inner stillness, becomes mysterious not because she hides herself, but because she doesn't need to reveal everything to be seen. A Zen teaching speaks of a monk who carried a bowl of water across a courtyard filled with students. He said nothing. The students watched him, puzzled. Finally, one asked, "Master, what are you showing us?" The monk gently tilted the bowl and a single drop spilled out. "Do you understand?" he asked. One student replied, "No, master." The monk nodded. "That is why you must watch more closely. Not all things are meant to be explained. Some things must be felt. This is the kind of mystery that is born from stillness, not from trying to confuse others, from being so centered that you no longer need to make yourself visible in obvious ways. When you are anchored in who you are, when you carry the serenity of someone who has stopped performing, others become naturally curious. They begin to wonder, what lies beneath that calm? What is it that I sense but cannot see? Mystery in this way is not elusive. It is rooted, like a deep forest that does not shout for attention, but draws the wanderer inward with its silence. Each step into its stillness reveals more, but never everything at once. That is its beauty and its power. In everyday life, you can witness this in someone who moves through the world slowly, attentively, and without rush. They speak with clarity, not volume. Smile with presence, not effort. They do not over-explain their absence nor their emotions. And yet, others remember them. Others feel compelled to understand, to reach, to stay near them. Not because they were loud, but because they were true. This is what happens when you cultivate inner peace. Your very way of being becomes a meditation for others. You remind them, without speaking, that there is another way to live, that one can walk without rushing, that one can be seen without seeking, that one can be loved without needing to ask for it. In nature, think of the lotus. It does not grow quickly. It does not bloom loudly. Rises slowly from the mud through the still water and opens only when the sun touches it. No one sees its roots, but they are there, deep, anchored, silent. The flower is beautiful, but it is the journey through darkness that makes it sacred. Mystery, then, is not the absence of identity. It is the presence of depth, and that depth is cultivated in silence, solitude, and simplicity. In every breath where you return to yourself instead of reaching outward, in every pause before you explain, in every moment you choose presence over performance, you deepen the mystery. The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi wrote, "Perfect man uses his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, it reflects everything, and it does not keep it." Such is the essence of peaceful mystery. It does not cling, it reflects. It allows others to see what they are ready to see. And in doing so, it honors the sacred timing of all things. A man may not understand why he thinks of you long after a conversation has ended. He may not grasp what makes your silence feel more profound than another's words. But what he feels is the resonance of your inner peace. Peace that does not beg to be known. A peace that simply is. And so you become a mirror, a question, a breath in a crowded room. And he may return again and again, not for answers, but for the feeling of being near someone who does not need to be figured out to be felt. This is the mystery born from stillness. It does not require you to change, only to become deeply yourself. And in doing so, you remind the world of something sacred, that not all beauty needs to be named, not all depth needs to be explained, and not all love needs to be loud to be real. Let this mystery be your offering. Let your peace be the fragrance that lingers. Trust that those who are meant to find you will. The final thread in this quiet tapestry of attraction is one that cannot be seen, but always felt. It is energy, the subtle vibration of your presence, the silent signal your being sends into the world, without words, without intention, without strategy. And the truth is, simple energy does not lie. No matter the mask we wear or the words we say, people respond to our energy. It is the invisible river beneath every interaction. And when your energy is aligned, when your heart is still, your breath deep, and your soul not grasping, others feel it. They may not know why, but they lean in. Because in a world filled with tension and performance, your calm becomes medicine. There is a parable from the Way of the Heart that tells of a hermit who lived atop a mountain. People from far villages would climb the path just to sit near him. He never preached, he never offered advice. He often sat in silence, tending his small fire. And yet, people left with lighter hearts. One day a visitor asked, "What is it you give them?" "Master," the old man smiled, "I give them nothing. But in my nothing, they remember what they forgot." "What did they forget?" the visitor asked. "That they too have a fire inside." This is the truth of energy. When you are in harmony with yourself, others begin to remember what harmony feels like. You do not need to teach. You do not need to convince. Your very presence becomes the teaching. This is why some people walk into a room and immediately shift the energy. Not because of beauty, status, or charisma. Because of alignment. Their presence whispers, "I am here, but I do not need." And in that state, they become both safe and compelling. You can sense this in everyday life. When someone speaks from a place of inner clarity, their words land softly, even if firm. When someone walks without hurry, listens without distraction, breathes deeply amid chaos, people take notice. Not with applause, but with reverence, because they are witnessing a person who is not fragmented, a person who is not scattered across expectations, a person who simply is. Nature reflects this perfectly in the presence of a large tree. Imagine sitting beneath an ancient oak. Does not need to prove its strength. It has grown slowly. Its roots are unseen but vast. Its shade is generous, but it asks for nothing. You feel calm in its presence. You feel protected. You feel home. The tree does not speak, but its energy speaks volumes. So, too, does yours. When your energy is steady, when you no longer perform, when you let go of emotional chaos, you become a sanctuary. A man may not say it aloud, but in your presence he feels more himself, and that is why he returns. Not because you dazzled him, but because you quieted him. This energetic truth cannot be faked. You cannot pretend peace. You cannot mimic depth. You cannot imitate stillness. These are states cultivated in solitude, through breath, through observation, through the slow, sacred act of becoming real. A lesser known teaching from Rumi whispers deaf, the quieter you become, the more you are able to hear. But it is not just about hearing others. It is about hearing your own essence. And when you hear it, you begin to radiate it, without trying, without force. And those who are ready will feel it and be changed. In the end, energy speaks a language beyond logic. It bypasses the mind and enters the heart. It is not the words you say that he will remember. It is the peace he felt when you said nothing at all. It is not the beauty of your face, but the restfulness of your presence. It is not your reaction, but your calm non-response that lives in his memory. Let your energy be your truth. Let your calm be your magnetism. Let your stillness be your message. For in a world where many are shouting, the soul listens only for those who have learned how to be silent and still be heard. The silent attitude that drives him wild. It isn't about control. It's about returning to yourself, to sit quietly under the tree of your own being and know that you are complete. Let your stillness be your presence. Let your peace become your power. And when someone feels you but can't explain you, that's when they truly see you. You are not here to be understood by minds in chaos. You are here to remind the world what peace feels like. Let that be enough. And if it isn't for them, know it is more than enough for you. Now close your eyes. Listen to the silence between your breaths and ask yourself, what part of me have I been hiding just because I was afraid of being fully calm in a world that fears silence? Watch again if your heart stirs. There is more to hear in what was never said.